I'm Ron Smoody, and I wanted to talk about an idea. And an idea is a simple thing. You know, we all have a box of them in our mind. Uh, this nation has a box of them in their mind. But to achieve those is a very difficult process. You have to break them down into their integral parts and the minutia and the bureaucracy, and then you find people that can affect those things and create those things into a working reality. That's a big hyper jump from an idea to reality. It takes a certain type of person, a person that is willing to give back to what we have in this nation, and to hopefully make it better for all of us. You know, it's much like a garden. We have this idea in our head, well, we're going to grow vegetables for our table. We're going to cook these things. We're going to essentially maybe get away from all of these things that plague us going to the grocery store. And that's a great idea, but there's a lot of work in between that. You have to go till the soil. You have to amend the soil. You have to raise it and ensure the drainage is proper. You have to fertilize it. Then you finally plant, and it doesn't end there. That's where the maintenance starts. Maintaining a garden is probably the most difficult process of gardening. Well, it's much like the Master Naturalist. You know, we had an idea many, many years ago to start this organization that would give back to the community, train these people in the particular environments which they reside, and then benefit that particular area. Well, it's just like the garden. We had this idea, but we needed to find the people to till the soil, to amend the soil, to plant the garden, and then to maintain the garden. You know, success is a product of maintenance. And if you look at Kris and Ray in particular, they probably served on every board position that this chapter has, but they didn't stop there either. They led us in the volunteer hours that they provided to this chapter and to this community and this environment that we live in. And it's kind of funny because I remember why Kris and Ray said they moved down here, and they were driving around and they'd see these plants in the ditch and they'd say, well, what's that? I said, well, I don't know, well, how are we going to figure this out? And they found the Master Naturalist program. Well, not only did they learn what those plants were, but they became authorities, local experts in this area through their efforts, their volunteer hours, their studying. Kris with her wildflower walks and her native plant interest, Ray with his expertise in native grasses and his passion, the whooping cranes. They set an example for all of us. They maintained this chapter. They did the work. They became the local authorities. I can think of no better example of our mission statement than Kris and Ray. Well, I want to have a little bit of fun, though. Ray and I worked a whole lot together, and Kris and I worked a lot together, and they have some unique personalities that I'd like to toy around with a bit. Ray is Scots-Irish, hard-headed as they come, opinionated, sometimes even belligerent to a point. Well, he and I took on the task of going to the Aransas Wildlife Refuge and assisting them with removing invasive species from the tall grass prairies. A tremendous job, thousands and thousands of acres of tall grass prairie that was being invaded by mesquite. They basically gave us some antiquated equipment and a sprayer and a UTV and turned us loose on the Tatton unit. Well, we sprayed and sprayed and sprayed these mesquites for 3 consecutive years, and we saw no improvement. There were mesquites we'd go back the next year, we'd kill everything that we saw, and then we'd go back the next year and there was just as many. So me being a forester by education, I started thinking about this, and I thought, well, there's only one of two ways that this could happen. It's a seed bed that is so impregnated in this soil that we could probably work for decades and never rid these invasive species of the tall grass prairie. Or it could be that what we were doing was merely eliminating the tops of the mesquite trees, and the roots were still surviving, and then basically through their adventitious buds on the roots, resprouting. Because what the chemical that we had been provided with was supposed to do was completely spread throughout the plant and kill everything. So I didn't question the chemical that we were using. I questioned maybe our methods. And Ray was pretty much on the side of, well, it's the seed bed. We keep getting regeneration because of this huge seed bed. So we argued and we debated, and we finally went out there with shovels and we dug holes around all these mesquites, and I proved to him that it was the roots that were sprouting again, and the chemical that we were using was defective. Well, Ray goes and does all this research, and he finds out, indeed, this chemical is antiquated. We need something new. We went back to the biologist at the refuge and told them about this. They did a bunch of research and agreed with us. But the point is, Ray sticks to his guns until you can prove that there is a difference in what his beliefs are. He does not accept information on its face value. He digs, he researches, and he ponders, and he argues. And if you can prove something to him, then he's on your side. But other than that, you can't. Now with Kris, it's a different story. Kris was an educator in her background. She's kind of a stickler for the rules. She pretty well kept our chapter in line and in tandem with the state's beliefs. I guess the best way to describe Kris's personality is a story about one day there were several of us talking after a meeting, and her daughter was amongst the group. And the subject of that was how we kind of, all of us, evaded our parents' parameters and rules as we were growing up, and what we could get away with and what we couldn't. And so there were several stories told, and then it came to Kris's daughter's turn. And she simply answered with a question, a one-line question. Do you know my mother? I think that sums Kris up. She learns, she keeps us in line, and there are no parameters that can be pushed, period. But what I'd like to end this with is, I've been here from the very beginning, the idea to the development of the first chapter. I've seen this organization expand and grow, both statewide, both nationally, and both internationally. And I can think of no other two people that stand out among all of us than Kris and Ray. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Burge. I was a member of the class of 2017, and like everybody else in the world, I met Ray and Kris on my first day of orientation and have worked with them both on the board and as well as on projects for the last 6.5 years, and it's been a pleasure. I worked with Ray and Kris on bird banding at Welder Wildlife. I was Ray's partner the last 3 years. He has yet to succeed in teaching me how to successfully get birds out of the net, but we work on it. Kris, like everything else, is a master at documentation, and I'll miss getting my regular emails from her telling me how I've screwed up my time reporting. The other thing I worked on with a lot was the Fennessy plant tracks. And if you haven't seen Ray Kirkwood working on a grass identification, you have missed a treat. I mean, he's down on the ground with, up close and personal with them. It's amazing. So, in any case, I can't think of anybody who would be more deserving of the first chapter leadership award than Ray and Kris. So, congratulations, and hope we'll see you around.
Hello, I'm El Chu. I work with Ray and Kris in the MAPS program, monitoring avian productivity and survivorship at the Welders Wildlife Refuge. It would start at 6:30 a.m. and Kris and Ray were always so cheerful. They would say hello and I would say, "Oh, thank God I got it here." The program involved capturing birds in mist nets, examining, measuring, and banding them. And sometimes it could get quite hectic. There would be several tables with several groups and all different birds, and they would be shouting out measurements and data, and Kris got it down in detail. Ray once freed this very angry green jay with such tender love and expertise. I want to thank the Kirkwoods for everything you've taught me. Thank you, and I wish you the best.
I first met Kris and Ray, like I imagine most of us did, at initial training. Um, I I thought they were interesting people, but over the course of initial training, over the weeks and months, I was amazed with them. They were knowledgeable. In fact, they were experts in what they were talking about. Uh, I had a real affinity for Ray. He was interested, I thought, in the same things I was. Animals. I remember climbing up the tower at Anwar and we were looking at whoopers. I thought he knew so much. And then when we were at, I think, the Ranch, and he went into a ditch talking about soils, I thought about my time in the Army, digging foxholes. And it was, I really liked Ray. Kris was more difficult for me at first. She was such a stickler for details, and I'm more of a 30,000-foot guy. It would drive me crazy when she would send back my hourly reports to say it had not been coded correctly. And I'd think, forgetting about the other 100 people that she was trying to record hours for, I would think, why wouldn't she just fix mine for me and not send it back to me? It drove me nuts. But even then, I felt that she was kind and helpful, and I appreciated what she was doing. I learned how they were devoted to nature and devoted to what Ray refers to as knowledge transfer. I thought it was just sharing information, sharing knowledge. It's interesting, when I watched the Doc and Martha video, I thought, gosh, these are such great people. Just listening to them talk about, um, with Doc and Martha, their interactions, their knowledge, their joking around. It was just quite an experience to see that side of them that I had not seen before. In October of last year, my admiration for them skyrocketed. I know it's hard for people that are sort of founders or first generations of an organization to relinquish the reins. And when Kris and Ray announced in October that they would be retiring over the next few years and needed to start the transition, I was so impressed with their dedication to our chapter. Um, that's hard to do. I remember at the November general meeting, after the elections took place, Bob was up and he was talking about how he was thankful that the Kirkwoods had waited until after his term was over before they decided to transition. I remember sitting in my seat thinking, what about me? What's that going to mean for me? I didn't know Kris and Ray that well then, and so I was concerned. But over the course of those weeks of transition, Kris would include me in emails to others just so I was aware of what was going on. And through those emails, I discovered her insights and what I refer to as her pearls of wisdom that I appreciated so much. So I decided in December to email them and ask if they'd meet with me. If I could come to their house or like keep in mine or wherever. And Kris was so gracious in inviting me over. I found them welcoming, generous with their knowledge and time, and insightful and funny. They're just great people. And we've met several times since, and they remain the same way. Kris and Ray are just wonderful people. When I started this, I wasn't a plant guy. I wasn't a bird guy like I thought Kris was. Um, Now I've got native plants garden. I have I carry a bird book and binoculars in my Jeep so that I can identify things. I attribute that to the influence that Kris has. They're just great people. I'm so thankful that they'll be around for the next several years to help our chapter. I know they're not the founders of the chapter, but in my mind, they're the heart and soul of our chapter. Kris and Ray, thank you for what you've done.
Hi, Ray and Kris. This is Janet, and Bob is here in spirit, so he's right here next to me. And I just wanted to say, congratulations on your next phase of retirement, because it has been like a job. So I hope you find something to keep you busy after. But we all appreciate everything you've done, the foundation you've set for the Mid-Coast chapter, and the many, many hours and days of work that you put into preparing and teaching. I appreciate all that, and I know Bob does too. And Ray, the one thing I remember most about you was during the very first meeting, initial training, you had a little timeline on a roll, and I helped you roll it out all the way across the wall. It was very interesting. And Kris, I mean, all of your assistance in keeping our hours right, if we did something wrong, you would very gently suggest another way to go. So, but that's it. I don't have a whole lot prepared, but again, you're loved, you're appreciated, and I hope we keep seeing you at meetings. Bye.
Well, I just want to say hello to Kris and Ray. They've been a great inspiration, and I think I've learned so much from them. They've been very willing to share their knowledge. It's really, I think, one of their best attributes is they're so willing to share. Plus, they're really nice people there. And anytime I had a meeting, there's tension in the air. They're really good at calming things down, keeping people focused and sociable. I've enjoyed Kris and Ray. They've helped me identify plants out in the field, or I take a picture or something and say, what is this? And I'll send a photo to Kris and say, oh, this is what it is. If it's not, here's where you can look it up. And doing some field work with them. I remember doing the Christmas bird count out at the Welder Refuge with Ray. And, oh, sorry, there's a plane flying by. And he's obviously really knows that refuge really well, because we're going cross country, have no idea where we're at, but Ray knows where all the gates are. We can get from one section to the other, and we're bouncing around and looking at the birds, and just really, really enjoyable to spend time with them. So, they're just a tremendous attribute, a tremendous resource. I think we're we're just really lucky to have them in the chapter, and I've learned a lot. So thank you, Kris and Ray.
Hi, this is Maureen Crocker from the 2022 Master Naturalist class in the Mid-Coast. I just wanted to say a quick thanks to Kris and Ray for all you've done to help educate me. And I really didn't think it was possible to underestimate your impact when I saw the number of badges and heard the first lecture from Ray on the geology of the area. But since you've let me loose in the community, every organization I've worked with has somehow been touched by you guys, whether it's Aransas Pathways, Native Plant Society. It's amazing what you've done, and I really hope that I can help carry it forward. Thank you.
I met Kris and Ray Kirkwood through other projects in the community, and when I reached out to ask them for help, they actually challenged me, okay, we will help you, but you would need to do the training for the Master Naturalist. I have been done a lot of activities with the Master Naturalist in other chapters in the state of Texas, but never had done the training. So they inspire me to do the training, and they mentor me through the pathways when I adopted the Ivy Lane site, and later with all the other projects that I helped in the community. So they are my mentors, and I will say that all the people I met through the whole Master Naturalist chapters are the most giving, the most knowledgeable, and the most passionate about not just the environment, but making sure that we learn what they know, and they are amazing givers on their knowledge to all of us at the Master Naturalist. So Kris, Ray, I love you from the bottom of my heart. I hope to see you guys along with our chapters for a long time ahead, and I'm always here if you need help from Nellie.
Hi, Ray and Kris. It's Debbie Griffith, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to let you know how much I've enjoyed working with you guys on the Texas Master Naturalists. And you have done so much for the training and for all the existing TMN people and the trainers, those being trained, that I think it's fantastic, and you're remarkable. And your dedication to this organization is just outstanding. And I doubt that you can be beat by anybody else in the state of Texas as far as the contributions you've made to the Master Naturalist and the time that you've spent on the program and helping others. Y'all spend so much time sharing your knowledge, teaching, interpreting, and getting involved in the community that I really just aspire to be like you someday. And your love of the outdoors, our natural resources, the environment, birds, plants, and about everything else is just really remarkable. And you set a great example for what others should be. And I'm amazed by the countless hours that you have put into it, and your passions show. So as you can tell, I'm reading a few notes. In particular, I remember Kris talking about different flowers and plants when we were at Anwar doing our training. And as we were walking, I think along Heron Flats, and I provide some pictures, but mostly I have the pictures of the plants. But I know that you were there with us doing that. And you also helped, if I recall, about learning about the trees there, about the stems and the leaves and what grows where and what things are called. And I remember sitting under a bunch of the shade trees going through that with y'all. The other thing is that you've been enormously helpful, because you're just a real giver of your time, and you're always at the ready, whether I'm calling about how do I report something because maybe I've taken too long to do my reporting or have forgotten, and you are always very pleasant about it. And it may mean something a lot to me. I know it's very insignificant to you probably, but it means a lot that you take your time to help really everywhere you can, and you never show frustration. So I really do appreciate you. And as to Ray, I have a particular interesting memory from when we did the Interpreting Nature thing out at Goose Island. And I've had occasions now to use what I learned there when I'm doing either programs about shell middens or talking to students about archaeology. And I'll never forget the example that you used about an ant or wasp apartment. And that has stuck with me ever since then. And if I recall correctly, it was a two-phased approach to mealy oak galls, which I didn't know they were called galls. Thought they were balls. But it was a two-phased approach that used a tree and a wasp and larvae and laying eggs and an abandoned gall that tasted sweet and sugary that fed other wasps and ants and butterflies. And then here comes a second gall and with larger wasps, and they do the same thing and lay eggs, and then they mate, and then these larger ones get out and leave a bigger hole in a bigger gall. And so therefore you have a kind of like a one-bedroom apartment for the larger ones. And not to waste anything, the smaller gall becomes like a studio apartment for smaller scavenger ants. And so as I'm out here under the trees, I remember those things that you said to me, and I have a nice size abandoned bigger gall, and I have here a little bitty gall for like miniature scavenger ants. So as you can see, the way that you taught us to do interpretation and create something interesting and maybe tangible in the story just will always resonate with me. So in general, I just want you guys to know that I have really appreciated everything you've done for me and the Master Naturalists, and that you make a difference. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
My name is Laura Clark. I took the Master Naturalist class, I can't remember when, but I was an employee of the City Parks Department in Rockport at that time. And of course, some of the first people that I met were Ray and Kris at the initial training. And they became the go-to people for information and people that were always there and happy to help, especially Kris. Whenever you make mistakes reporting your hours, she would cheerfully and diligently help you get the right coding so that you didn't miss out on your hours. We've also spent some really nice times out at Finnessy Ranch doing the vegetation surveys. That's part of the Mission Aransas NER, and Katie Swanson is in charge of that and invited us to go and do vegetation surveys, Ray being the grass guy and Kris knowing all the other plants, the broadleaf plants, and she's taught me a lot. I'm very grateful to have known both of those people. They've enhanced my life tremendously.
Hi everyone, I'm Angie Ardondo. I'm with the Wob and Bessie Wilder Wildlife Foundation. I'm the Manager of Education, Outreach, and Curation here. I've known Kris and Ray probably a little over 10 years now, going on 10 years now. And I always remember when I first met them, one, just how intelligent they were. There was nothing that I could stump them with when I was outside, whether it was a plant question, a bird question, any question really. And I'm always just amazed how dedicated they are, not only to all the organizations they volunteer with, but to Welder specifically. There's never been a time where I couldn't call on them to come and help with things. And they were sure to answer, whether it was public tours, educational groups, dealing with all the kiddos that we see every year. It's rare that you meet volunteers like them. And I've been incredibly honored to work with them over these past 10 years. So thanks for all you do, you guys. Y'all are fantastic.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Ingalls, and my husband Roger and I joined the Mid-Coast Master Naturalists in 2019, which was when I think I met both of you, Kris and Ray, at our orientation and initial training. And what I remember from that day was Ray unfurling his 30-foot long history of the world when he was teaching us geology. And what impressed me so much about that was how he emphasized how little we are in the whole scheme of time. And that was Ray, a consummate teacher, always, always teaching. And then what I remember about Kris was you teaching us how to do time entry, how to log on, and I was completely overwhelmed. I thought, I'll never get this. I'll never put my time in right. And it didn't matter because every time I tried, even if I didn't get it right, you were there to help very sweetly correct me. And I would say that's what I remember about both of you is Ray being the teacher and the interpreter that you are, and teaching us how to do that, at the same time teaching us more about nature. I don't have a history in botany or any of the things a lot of the master naturalists are trained in, and I learned by doing. And you all, especially you, Ray, were a lot of that teaching. And Kris, working with you on the board and your attention to detail. I've never known anyone who had the focus and attention to detail you have, and how you kept us straight with the state, making sure that everything was reported accurately, keeping up on who got what award, and then being there to present them every single meeting. And I just love you both. When I think of you, I think of that twinkle in your eye, Kris, and I think of Ray's little twitch when he thinks about something he wants to teach us, and his mouth kind of goes down. The other thing I cherish is getting to know you personally also, and hearing some of your stories of the Panhandle, and talking about that, and seeing your beautiful home. Same thing there in nature, but also all the little attention to detail there as well. You guys have been an inspiration. The last thing I'll say is that I got to work with you guys out here at Welder, and I know how much you love this place as much as I do. And again, there you were, getting up at dark 30 to get out here before sunrise, and then teaching us newbies working on the MAPS program how to do it, how to identify those birds. Blown away again about how much you knew about everything. And then I just have to bring this forward and show you what Kris was in charge of, was this logging form. And Kris would sit there and put all the little details for each bird and keep it straight and keep us all on task. And that I'll carry that memory of working out here forever. It's just a place like none other. And Kris and Ray, you know that. And you, like Angie said, you've helped so much out here and so many other places. You've been an inspiration, especially for me, for being in retirement, wondering, what can I do? What is my purpose right now? You gave me that inspiration. You've been an inspiration to me, to our chapter, and without being too cheesy, I'd say to our planet, of helping us get through these perilous times we're going through right now. So Butch, which I know is Kris's nickname for you, and Kris, thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
My name is Marilyn Stewart. It's my sister, Debbie, and we joined the Master Naturalist group, Mid-Coast Master Naturalist, in 2018. I decided I needed to be retired before I could do this because it's a lot to learn for me, but just wanted to mention that Kris and Ray were, just so important in our training. They trained our group, they were an important part of training our group. They weren't the only ones, but they were certainly an important part. I know, I guess what I learned the most from Kris especially was wild plants, native plants, and weeds and grass, weeds and grass. I went on, we both went on during our training several tours and field trips with the both of them. And anytime we stopped along the way to say, I wonder what that is, or I wonder what that is, Kris would know. Immediately she would know what that weed or what that plant was or what the tree was for that matter. She knows so much. They both know so much. It's just really, I don't know, very encouraging to me as a new trainee because I love nature. I love all this stuff. That's of course why we're in this organization. But I guess one thing I learned from both of them is all the things I don't know. So I do really appreciate their passion for what they do and just how much they know.
Hi, I'm Debbie Roski. We're sisters. And I just want to say thank you to Kris and Ray for all their invaluable knowledge and help, especially you, Kris, because I'm not that tech savvy, obviously, and you really did help me get my hours put in correctly. And I do appreciate y'all. And best of luck to you in your next chapter of life. Thank you.
Hi, Kris and Ray. This is Kathy Koenig, and I wanted to thank you today for your incredible service as a Texas Master Naturalist. I know you've had 23 years and counting of service with the Mid-Coast Chapter. And all the work that y'all did in growing and mentoring this program is paying off or has paid off. You guys were the glue that held us together. All those arduous administrative duties, the program management, the hours keeping, the board, the service. And now you get to step back, a step well earned, to just enjoy service, the things you love to do out in nature. You helped me immensely to find my place with this chapter. As an ecologist, but mostly in water, I learned from you, Kris and Ray, about the native plants and the incredible role they play in the natural world and in landscaping. And Kris, with your help and sharing your presentation, your slides with me, it helped me get started. Not a PowerPoint person. So it got me on track and gave me the confidence to step out and teach folks about landscaping with native plants. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Gear-Miller.
And I'm Jeremy Miller. We haven't been part of the Texas Master Naturalists for long, but Kris and Ray have been a huge part of the experience for us the whole time.
I fondly remember taking initial training with them and learning about whooping cranes, geology, and also wildflowers of Texas. I really appreciate it.
And I got to go and do the MAPS bird surveys out at Welder Wildlife Refuge with them last year. And while it wasn't always easy getting up early enough to drive more than an hour and be out in the woods before first light, they always made it entertaining. I learned a ton from both of them. Thank you very much for all that you've done to make this program what it is today.
Thanks, Kris and Ray.
Hi, I'm Liz Smith, and I just want to say a few things to you, Ray and Kris, about our special relationship that we've had for decades. We actually started out very early in the 2000s, and that Ray, you asked me to do a watershed ecology class for the intern class that year. It was the first time it had ever been done. I was at the university then, so I was quite academic and wanted to do everything, and you helped me hone it down to the focus that we needed to do for the class. And it was a challenging class, and we actually ended up teaching it together, and because I didn't realize you had so much expertise in so many things. So that followed on with us actually re-evolving that into the riparian ecology section that we then started doing at Fennessy. And at that time, I focused on the geomorphology and the topography, and then the plants and the animals, while you focused on riparian water rights, which is something that is not an easy thing to understand, but the way that you taught it and conveyed it made so much of a difference in that kind of technical aspect of water law and how it applies to private people in Texas. So throughout those years, then our relationship evolved where I was contacting you quite a bit for other things. And I had also switched over to the International Crane Foundation. So you were the naturalist on the Wharf Cat, and you offered to teach me a lot of the things that you already knew. And that really was a step up for me, and we became very, very, good friends and craniacs in a kind of more technical way, even though we both just loved the birds, and that was very helpful. I was the only person at the Crane Foundation when I started, and so staff of one and you stepped up and said, well, as a master naturalist, I can do some citizen science work for you. And so we had these cameras out at these wells, these ponds, and you developed all of these different programs to take that raw data and be able to bin it in files and folders, rename them to unique names, and teach other people how to do that. And it was a really fantastic operation that they still use today. So we had thousands and thousands of pictures, and you said, let's make this a Master Naturalist project. And so we trained people in formal training to understand the behaviors, and then also the other animals, and they developed a very, very comprehensive data set with that data. In the meantime, we discussed how important some of these ponds were. And so you were very interested in the ponds at Aransas National Wildlife Refuge and actually analyzed that data for an important year, 2016-17, and published a paper on it. You also presented that work at the North American Crane Workshop. You were the first citizen scientist to give a presentation, and it was very well received. People were very impressed with your knowledge and your interpretation of that data. And that publication has, it's Kirkwood and Smith, and it has been repeated many times in other publications. So, one of the things that all of this took was, coordination. And I depended so greatly on you, Kris, to help me find Ray, have him meet with me when he could, and filtered some things for me when he was really busy, when you were busy, Ray, and also, met with us when we were in your office at your home and talked about all the various aspects of the projects and all the data sharing and everything. So I appreciate, Kris, that you kept our feet on the ground and helped us keep going. Another thing was that I wanted to become a master naturalist as soon as I could. And so during the pandemic, I took the class, still working, and was able to certify and become one of us. And that was important to me because, yes, I had a background in a lot of this, but I knew what I knew. I wanted to know what everybody else knew. And so it's been a really rich experience, and to see so many other people who respect you so much as I do, and that the organization behind all of the scenes with you, Kris, and the hours and the coding. I mean, you bailed me out so many times. I wonder if I ever really did one right for a while, but I appreciate it. And, the people that I meet that I say, I know Ray Kirkwood, they say, oh, I do too. We do, projects all over the coastal bend. There's a very, very serious tie to the long-term bird monitoring at Welder, that they only take the best. And so I just think it's so great that I'm able to, thank you for helping me so much, but really more being my friend and getting me through some tough times. So, this is your day, and I'm very happy to say I think the world of you.
Good morning, Kris and Ray. It's Paul Meredith from Marina, California, on Monterey Bay and the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary. Wanted to say a few words about you two. Best memory of Ray bouncing down the beach and on Matagorda Island, seeking the ephemeral tracks of Kemp Ridley sea turtles. You and I never found one. Mary and I got the nest, the first nest, but that was always a great memory because we had marvelous discussions about what it really meant to be a naturalist out in the field. Kris, bless you, babe. Yeah, my favorite hour is Nazi, as you referred to yourself. You were always great in terms of making sure that everything was done and done right. The awards were always done on time, and it was, it's one of those things where you taught me about how to run a chapter. And of course, you two sandbagged me into being president. And then instead of just throwing me in the water, you really helped me and guided me. Your leadership was always great. And you always considered people and cared about them. So I guess the final point I'd like to make is that your guidance and leadership on Mid-Coast is just worth gold. You've done so much for us and for the chapter, and you laid the groundwork for me even after I've left Texas, and I still follow the precepts that you gave me. So thank you very much. Be safe. God bless. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Angela with the Welder Walleye Foundation, and I just want to tell Kris and Ray that this is such an honor just to be able to speak and say something about you guys. You all have been a big part of the Welder Foundation, and a lot of things have happened here would not have been possible without you guys. And I just want to tell you thank you so much for all your endless hours of volunteering here and making this place even better. And congratulations, and love you guys. Bye.
My name is Tracy Ramsey Bennett, and I'm class of 21, moved here in 20 from San Antonio. So joining the Master's Naturalist class was the best thing I ever did after moving here, because I got to meet Kris and Ray, who are the most loveliest people in the world. And they were so knowledgeable and so kind and so helpful, because I get lost doing that reporting thing. And so Kris has always been there to help me and encourage me and just give, like, you can do it, we'll get through this together. And I always felt like I had a really ally in the class, and also with my other classmates. So I wanted to say how grateful I am for their warm welcoming and friendship. And Ray and I volunteered together at the Oyster Festival, and we went and gathered oysters to repurpose and dry them out and have them be used for wreaths. So that was really fun. I got to know Ray a little better. So I'm just blessed to have such, we're blessed to have such leadership in this organization. So thank you, Ray, Kris and Ray, and I just really appreciate all the help you've given me and everybody else. Thanks.
Original group that got this thing going. Well, we didn't really know what we were doing, and enjoyed getting together at the meeting. And Ray kind of took over on giving a purpose and giving assignments that each individual was responsible for being a master naturalist, and each individual had a job to do to make this a better world to live in. And Ray was a leader in that bunch, and he had a more than worthwhile assistant. His darling wife, Kris, was she helped spread the joy that the Master Naturalist kind of inherited from Ray and Kris as the membership grew. It seems as if Ray grew with it, and they depended on him. We depended on him to keep the ball bouncing. I might say a little thing like getting flowers from the valley to the Master Naturalist. That wasn't a little thing. Ray and Kris went to the valley, checked out the different nurseries over there, got a list of plants from each nursery and prices. And then he came back to a Master Naturalist meeting and gave out this information for the people to look over and decide what they wanted or what have you. So then at the next meeting, they could give Ray the list that they wanted. When they took this list down to the valley and started having that filled, well, they, on their way back up here, they brought some of them, but finally ended up having them hauled up here to Ray and Kris's backyard. And the gallon buckets and all that kind of stuff sitting out there, it was all wilting. Kris would look at them, and she had to go out and take care of them like they were her own. And she got those plants looking so healthy that the people that had on their list that had bought that plant, they come by to pick them up, and they were all in good shape because Kris kept them in good shape. They had lots of plants that the people really didn't know exactly what they were getting. Ray and Kris took it upon themselves to teach the people that bought that plant how to plant it and where to plant it as far as shade or hillside or something. They gave a lesson on each flower or bush or tree that they planted. They gave a lesson on how to take care of it. And that is above and beyond any nurseryman's deal. So Ray and Kris furnished this as a master naturalist. Now, I was over on a whooping crane travel boat, and Ray would come over, and while they're the people waiting to get on the boat and whatever, he milled around in there to tell so many people were out of town. The boat would hold 95 people, and this was a very rare bird. And so there was lots and lots of people from out of town. Ray would kind of mill in between them and talk to people from New Jersey or talk to people from South Dakota and places like that to spread the Master Naturalist deal that they may not have in their community. The boat would come back in after the trip. Well, then everybody wanted to know where to eat and where was the best place for this or that and where were other birding places. Well, there again, of course, Ray got on a boat and went out with me, so he was there when I came back, and he directed people the best restaurants and other birding places that they could go and spend their time since they were from California or something. Well, we have different birds than they do, or southern Florida. We have different birds. And he would explain that to them that as a master naturalist, you get a organization, a club started in your community, and you will make a better world to live in just from the little Master Naturalist deal that you start there. Ray and Kris always had a push on Master Naturalist wherever they were. Now, Kris, I don't know how she did it, because I know it took a lot of her personal time that to keep up with the records of all the Master Naturalists. And it was wonderful the way that she could, tell you your rating or something uh, as a Master Naturalist. But when you get out on the street and you are talking with people, Master Naturalist just flows out of your veins, and it makes the people that you are talking to feel better. And hey, I could do that, and things like that that Ray and Kris would instill upon you when they just in a conversation with you. And first thing you know, you're hung. They want to make plants and other things to make this a better world to live in. The business end of it couldn't be handled any better than what Kris and Ray has handled it, and that helps keep the organization together. Well, their administrative duties were, I would say, a full-time job, except they kind of, in their mind to us, kind of brush it aside. And you look at the table that Kris keeps, and no, you don't brush that aside. That is part of her daily work to help keep you going and make you a better member of the Master Naturalist. Well, the memory I have of Kris is when she is, people are coming to pick up a particular tree. She goes into a book on how to plant that tree. And then I know personally that she would check back in a month and 3 months and next year. Like one of them was a mulberry tree, and the following year that they had mulberries, which brought more birds and squirrels. The way that she would help people on the plants, and I don't know where Kris got her education in all these plants, and she is telling people all the details on. And I learned an awful lot from her. And yes, right now, I can say that for Ray and Kris both, that there is a lots of love between my heart over to their heart. They are wonderful people, and I'm proud to say I love them.
My name is Earl Matthew from Rockport. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Kris and Ray. Kris, over the years, after they were Master Naturalists, and my wife and I, Lonnie, were in the 2004 class, made me keep up my hours until I finally gave up, kind of like Mr. Little did. And we worked together on a lot of things over the years. Ray in particular and I, different in ideas of scope, but we had really great interest in the Tule Basin, and we worked with Aransas First on the Tule West project. Then we became the technical committee for the stormwater plan for the county, and we're basically was the technical committee for that and for the committee. And we pulled all the trails together that we had in what was called the Green Corridor Project out of Aransas First and developed it into the Pathways Potential Trails for the Aransas Pathways program when that came up in the early, after about 2011 on through 14. And the trails didn't go too far, but he's about to have another job again because we're back in the business of trying to redevelop the trail system for Pathways. And the maps that he and I put together years ago are back on the table again. And I think we have county support now for pursuing that. So you can't get away. But for all y'all have done for all the years and what you did for the Master Naturalist and persisting and educating is something that we're all thankful for. We appreciate you for it.
Hi, my name is Deanne Williams, and I joined the chapter in 2020. I'm very happy to send my warmest regards to both Ray and Kris Kirkwood. Your leadership and stewardship, not only of our chapter, but of the mid-coast of Texas, and I'm sure beyond, is admirable and beyond compare. I'm so glad that I've worked with you and learned so much from you. I'll never forget Kris. I walked up to Kris during one of our training sessions, and I said, "How is it that you and Ray know so much?" And she said, "Deanne, I was just like you 25 years ago. I started, and you just learn one species at a time, one ecosystem at a time, and you'll get where we are. It's that simple." So I aspire to be just like you both when I grow up, and I wish you the best, and I hope to see you out in the field. Best of luck.
Beth Hudson here with the Victoria section of our chapter, and I'm here with a tribute for Kris and Ray. You know, there's many people who know them so much better than I do, but with all they've done for the chapter, they really have touched us all. Kris has kept up with oodles of pins and recognitions for all our chapter members. She's kept us on our VMS toes, and she's personally helped me when I've had things that I've had to submit, especially helping me cross all the T's and dot all the I's. I remember a ride out at Welder Wildlife Refuge with Ray. We had finished a meeting and we were going to do some trail clearing, and a bunch of us piled on. And as we were going about clearing the path, Ray would point out little details, some historic, some natural phenomenon, and it just made the work go so much better. My most favorite memory of Ray was a tour that we took out at Ivy Lane. He pointed out so many details in the flora that I might have missed had I gone on this trip by myself. He also talked with me about the need for running water in a puddling system, and he talked about how they'd accomplished that out at Ivy Lane. As for Kris, it's her patience. In the early days with Mid-Coast, after relocating from Amarillo in the Panhandle chapter, I was trying to reclaim my local roots, and I may have reminded her one too many times that I'm from Sinton. Well, I am from Sinton. For Kris's patience, her attention to detail, and her vast knowledge of all things planted, we are truly grateful. For Ray's knowledge and his ability to make you stand there in awe. Thank you. I have one last story of when my husband and I traveled out to their house to pick up some extra black-eyed Susans. And as we turned the corner and saw their house, there was this fairyland of wildflowers. There were fire wheels and Indian paintbrush and pink evening primrose, and of course the ubiquitous black-eyed Susans. It was warm, it was delightful, and it was ethereal. Kris and Ray, thank you for your service.
Hi, I'm Amy Nallen, and I would just like to extend my sincere appreciation out to you, Kris and Ray, for such a memorable 2023 educational year. As you know, 2023 was my initial training, and I learned so much from each of you. And I look forward to future learning opportunities. And wow, just thank you for your dedication and commitment to the Mid-Coast chapter.
Hi, I'm Steve Simmons. I haven't been with Master Naturalist that long, but in 2023, Ray and Kris were very instrumental in helping me with my certification. And as I learned more about Kris and Ray, their dedication to the Master Naturalist chapter is very, very amazing. And I just appreciate them so much. Thank you so much, Ray and Kris, for helping me and supporting me. You're an inspiration to me.
I joined the Texas Master Naturalists in the class of 2020. And it only took me a minute to realize that 99% of the time, Ray and Kris had the answers. And the other 1% of the time, they knew who did. So at times I thought I might be annoying with all my questions and, you know, needs. But if I was, they never, ever let on. So Kris and Ray, thank you so much for all that you've done for the chapter. You've been amazing. And I want to really thank you for your support of my ideas. Change isn't always easy for people with a lot of history and so much invested, but you guys have welcomed that change and those ideas with open arms, and I really am appreciative for that. And one more thing, because of your wonderful positive energy, you guys are just fun to be around. So thanks for that too.
I'm Steve Reisinger, and I am one of many, many lucky people to have known Ray over the years. I have to say that I am so grateful for everything he taught me. I am also so grateful for all the wonderful experiences we had. My passion has always been birding, and Ray taught me a new way of birding. And so when we go birding, we would also look at the butterflies, and we would look at the dragonflies, and we would look at the flowers, and we would look at the land, and we would look at everything. And so he broadened my view. And so it's really a wonderful thing that to this day, I see things much differently than I would have if I had never met Ray. Then we have these wonderful experiences, and we'd go birding. And the most vivid memory I have birding with Ray is at Welder. And if you know about going on Welder, you gotta put on your snake boot. Otherwise, you don't go nowhere. So, put my snake boots on, and we fell along with Ray going through it was the Christmas count at Welder one year, and had my boots on. Ray had his boots on. We're trudging along, and if you know Welder, you know that they do research with the effect of cattle grazing on wildlife and everything, and so their whole area is got, it's a cow pasture, and so I just marveled, and I guess it was because Ray was brought up in a farm, how Ray could be looking up at the trees and at the sky and walking along and never once step in a meadow muffin. Never once. And of course, never mind. So that's the thing that I remember him. Well, many things I remember, but our times at Welder our times banding birds at Wilder, with Kris, of course, making sure that all the data's right. And it was just a wonderful experience. And I am so happy to have known him.
Hi, I'm his other half, Ellen Reisinger, and we're in the Pacific Northwest now, but there's a lot of things we miss about Rockport, and one of them is the Kirkwoods. I'm so happy that you asked us to help honor them for all their commitment to the community. And I hope that they get some leisure time and they get to enjoy it, and because they really deserve it. So, you know, we try and enjoy our leisure time, we really do. So, but I would like to just talk about how they affected me personally, both of them. And I think what I came away with was a love and a curiosity of the natural world, basically. And I still have that today. Of course, plants, because I love native plants, but also birds and insects and animals. So I'll never ever forget that, and it'll follow me through my life. The other thing is that both of them always were there for advice. If you needed it, any kind of help, they were very knowledgeable. It was just incredible. It was nice to know that they were there all the time if you needed them. One of my favorite experiences with both of them was going on vegetation assessments at Fennessy Ranch, and we would go out there and spend better part of the day, and it was a lot of fun. People wouldn't believe me. You measure off a plot of ground and you look at every piece of plant that's in there. It sounds boring, but it wasn't. It was awesome. I learned so much. I will always remember that, and I miss that. I wish I could do that again. So the other thing about Kris and Ray is they never stopped learning. They were always learning about something, and they were curious about things. And like I said, they were happy to impart that to people. So that's how I remember them, and I wish them the best and thank them for all they do.
Hi, Kris and Ray. This is Greg.
And Sally.
Coming to you from Welder Wildlife. You can see the soil pit in the background. We know this is a very special place for you, dear to your heart. It's also an example for us of where you've had the biggest impact on us. It's places like this that, as aspiring master naturalists, aka newbies, that we've learned so much from you. We know that we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we've always challenged each other in a respectful manner.
Yeah, so here is where Ray and Kris inspired me to want to learn more about native plants, even to call their names. And it was fun to learn yellow research daisy, yellow flower, another yellow flower, all the DYCs. And also starting our frustrating relationship with learning the grasses. So Old World blue stem, you know which one?
Well, let me take a look here. Could be a Clayburg blue stem. Oh yeah, look at those fuzzy nodes.
So with our attempt at humor, I would just like to say how much I have appreciated Kris's sense of humor through the years. You know, it's her dry wit, especially. We can be in an educational setting or we can be in a meeting, and I'll be listening to her and thinking, did she just say that? And look at her, and she has this little half grin and is looking around to see who caught on to her joke. So thank you for your sense of humor. Thank you for all your support, especially for us as initial training directors, where you were the ambassadors here for us. You helped at ANWR, you helped at orientation, you helped at graduation, you let us store supplies at your house. The list just goes on and on. So we certainly appreciate how you supported us.
And in all sincerity, thank you so much. We look forward to continuing to learn from you in the future, but also to collaborating with you as well. Bye for now.
Hi, Kris and Ray. This is Janet McCrae,
And I just wanted to thank both of you for all of the time, effort, and knowledge that you have shared with all of us in the Mid-Coast chapter of the Texas Master Naturalists. The main reason that I became a Master Naturalist was to learn more about native plants. That's my passion. And of course, the knowledge that I gained in taking the training class did not disappoint because of the two of you in teaching and sharing your knowledge about the native plants and particularly the native grasses. So I'm enjoying being around the two of you and getting to know you better, and look forward to even more times together in the future. And thank you again so much for all that you have done for our chapter.
My name is TJ Fox. I was in the inaugural class of the Mid-Coast Chapter. Kris, Ray, I'm not quite sure what to say about you both and our 20 years of friendship. Now that Frankie's gone, I am reminded of the many wonderful times we spent cooking and eating and cooking and talking about it. The hardest decision we had in leaving Rockport was knowing that those times would not be as frequent. I still remember when I first met you when you were members of the second chapter training class. I guess your class of 7 is still the smallest, but certainly produced 2 of the greatest master naturalists. Ray, I remember Rat Patrol, and of course Hollis. I remember turtle nesting patrols on Matagorda Island. I certainly will never forget Mike and I spotting that first nesting turtle, and your assistance in keeping her on shore until we finished our work and let her return to the Gulf. She was so strong and so determined. Then 2 weeks later, it was your and Donna's turn to see and hold a nesting turtle. It was almost unbelievable that it was the same one. How could I forget all those early mornings on the Tatton unit as we baited and set traps and hoped to catch doves for the state survey? I remember the morning that we had 2 locations with 7 doves at each place. Kris, I'm not sure what the chapter would have done without your constant and meticulous record keeping. It worked out well because Ray had no idea that he was going to get a 5,000-hour pin at our 10-year banquet. I especially remember the plant surveys for the Mission Aransas Near. You and Ernie's knowledge of native plants made the surveys work. Even with the heat and the bugs in the early hours, it was all great fun. I know that each of you have well over 10,000 service hours, and that's a tribute to your dedication to TMN. I know that I'm a better person for having known you and for being able to call you my friends. Thank you.
Hi, Kris and Ray. Michelle Haggerty here, your statewide coordinator for the Texas Master Naturalist Program. Wanted to say thank you for all that you've done for the program and for your chapter and chapters locally, being models of the Master Naturalist Program and models of service, Texas Master Naturalist service in your local community, and really leading your local community to become the Texas Master Naturalist Program and chapters in your area that you have become today. I've been with the program over 25 years now, and you've been with the program as long. And I feel that I have family in both of you with that history, and sometimes have looked to you for counsel and guidance and advice. And I want to thank you for that in what you've given and provided back to the Master Naturalist Program, and that counsel and advice. And I always remember our days at the early Texas Master Naturalist annual meetings, and how friendly and open and welcoming y'all were and continue to be, and how you helped shape those Master Naturalist annual meetings to be a real family affair. So great memories there, and thank you for everything you've done, every way you have been involved in the program in your community, and really emulated what a Master Naturalist is.
Yeah, thank you so much for, as Michelle said so eloquently, being the models of a true Master Naturalist, and setting the precedent for so many other Master Naturalists across the state, to be those leaders in service as yourselves have been in your chapter's area for so long, and working with so many of our conservation partners across the state, really being that model Master Naturalist for our program over the last 25 years. Thank you guys so very much.
Hey, Kris and Ray, Bridget Berger. I hope this video has helped you to feel the love and appreciation that our chapter members feel for you. You've made a huge impact on us and the world around us. And as Ray Little says, we're here to make the world a better place to live in. You've certainly done that. And I thank you so much for that. And I know you're not done yet.